Yeah, only 18 years plus since all your kids
yeah,
have moved out, and then you become a sad,
that's true.
probably above middle-aged person. So
Oh,
I'm already there, so welcome.
thank
You
you, thank
can
you.
join me.
Yes, yes, and welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast about video games and beer. I'm Ben, here with Lucy. Oh shit.
Hi, would anyone like a cable? No? Good, because I'm hoarding them all anyway.
and with the king of cables, Aadil.
Hey!
I don't know what that would make me. Lucy can be the queen of cables. You can be the king of cables.
Yes.
I could just be the cable guy. There we go.
I think Jim Carrey you'll find is the cable guy.
He's too
They
busy
do
these
have,
days.
like, female to female, male to male cables, so
Yeah.
know, depending
That's
on
true.
which ones you've got. It's when you have, like, oh, I need the male or I need the female, you just can't. Just
Well,
have it, and
you
it's
can
like,
you can buy little
stop it.
adapters, can't you?
Yeah.
That you can plug your
Yeah.
a male to male adapter, so you can plug it into your female to give you the male.
Or you could have like 6,000 cables underneath your bed.
I mean, yeah, one of them will
Just
be the right
search
one.
through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. What episode
Do you guys
is
prefer
this?
a dongle or an adapter?
Ooh.
Or
An
custom
adapter.
cable that's multi-ended?
Pick an adapter.
Yeah, I'd go with an adapter.
Yeah, I'm a big adapter person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dongles
Good
aren't
adapter.
nearly as useful as you think, and then the odds of a cable that's
I think I have a
something
dongle
random
here.
to something random else failing is quite high.
Also, just the
solid
word
dust.
dongle.
Dongle.
It's very good.
Mm.
Let me have a look at this dongle that I haven't touched in several years. That's full of dust. What's this for? Belkin?
Mm.
Oh, it's USB on it.
USB 2?
It's a wireless USB adapter.
Oh.
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 I've always seen it. It's been on my shelf for ages. I'm like, what is that?
You open the box, you're like, not sure this is. Put it there. And it just lives there for years. It's episode 315. Welcome, friends. Let us know about your dongle. That would be great. Shall we open up some beers?
Okay.
I assume Adil's going to make some notes once the cat has been let out. So, it's beer time, Aadil. Lucy,
Hey!
what are you going to be drinking for episode 315?
I promised it a few weeks ago, and I still haven't drank it. And I wanted to drink it because we love our Canadian friend here. And it's from Trial and Ale Brewing Company in Edmonton, Canada. So,
Albertan beer.
looks them up.
Trial and Ale.
Yeah. And it's a mixed fermentation beer. It says if you go to www.mixedfermentation.com, that's a good URL to get, good domain to get if that's them. But yeah, Trial and Ale Brewing Company from Edmonton.
Nice.
In Canada. Ooh. Okay, I will forgo the bit about reading about the brewery, and I'll read about this specific beer because there's a lot of flavor text in there, so I'll try and be quick. But it's called A Saison Apparent. Strong beer fort, 7.4%. This in particular is a 750ml bottle, so I'll be sipping on it for a time.
Mm-hmm.
But the flavour text is our first wild beer release, A Saison Apparent. This blend has received the thorough Brettanomyces treatment. The Saison style originated near the border of southern Belgium and northern France as a farmhouse style beer with a low ABV to serve the workers in the fields. I don't know how much. I think if anyone's listening to this podcast, we know what a Saison is. So I'm going to skip through quite a bit of it.
Almost all the flavour text.
Yeah, is explaining what a Saison is. Let me pick out a few parts. Fruity esters, dry, hyper-attenuated finishing gravity, dry, complex fruit with the earthy funk and deep flavors only a matured wild beer can achieve. Yeah, they're just basically describing a saison. I should have just read the. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Hops. A robust arrangement of Czech Saaz, German Hallertau, and a variety of low alpha acid hops. Malts are Pilsner, Munich, Wheat, Vienna, Cara Munich, Rye, Special B. Yeast bacteria, Saccharomyces, Cerevisiae var, Diasteticus, Ticus, several select Brettanomyces strains, Saccharomyces, Lioness for bottle conditioning.
So it's got several different yeast strains in there as well.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, pretty much describing what a saison is. But I mean, it's like a beer a few weeks ago. They were just describing what a West Coast IPA wasn't it? But it's like they absolutely nailed it. So hopefully this does the same. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm going to open one. It's a little can from a new brewery for me, from Mumbles Brewery, who are based near Swansea. This is Albina, a dry-hopped. It says dry-hopped by a Celtic goddess. It's 5.7%. This heavily new pale is named after the ancient Celtic goddess of barley. This beer is bountiful, strong but light, and finishes clean and citrusy, dry hopped with US and New Zealand hops. It doesn't tell me what those hops are, and it only gives allergens on there. Suitable for vegetarians and vegans. It's unfiltered. But yeah, I went for a pint earlier, as is now becoming a little Wednesday tradition, because my daughter has started rainbows
drinking.
So me and one of the other dads who I know are basically just going for a pint whilst we wait for them to run around like lunatics for an hour. So yeah, I picked up a couple of beers from the pub. The bottle. It's not really a pub. It's not really a bar. It's like a little craft beer pop-up shop almost. But it's not a pop-up shop. It lives in one place. But it kind of looks like, it shouldn't really be there. But I'm going to drink this.
Nice.
Me. What are you going to drink?
I'm drinking the Funky Drummer 6-hop DIPA from 71 Brewing. It's 7.5%. This super pale and hazy Big DIPA packs in obscene amounts of the best US hops: Citra, Azacca, Cascade, Columbus, Simcoe, and Mosaic. And so 71 is from Dundee. So yeah, that's the thing I'm doing.
Nice, perfect. Two little beers for you and I. Lucy on her big old 750ml bottle. Yeah. How is it, Lucy?
Yeah, it poured a I guess amberish kind of coloured beer. A bit hazy. It smells beautiful. It's as soon as I popped the cork, you could smell that fruit. And yeah, just putting your nose in it, it's like got a nice. It smells like toast, like that really bready kind of moorish aroma. Yeah, it smells delightful.
Nice. I see Vocation are going to bottles for some of their special release beers as well. People moving away from bottles over the last sort of 5 years. Some people now moving back to them for, I suppose, more special releases. So it's nice to see a beer in a big old bottle.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's a bit more subtle on the taste. It's very easy. There's a little bit of carbonation, just zhuzhing things up, but it even with that carbonation, it's still very easy. And yeah, it's got that sourness to it. Yeah, a bit of few floral notes, fruity. It's what you'd expect from a saison. There's nothing, extraordinary about it that I've tasted right now, but it's still a very nice, saison. I mean, it explains what a saison is on the bottle, and it's just that, but it's not doing a lot more. I think given like some of the saisons I've had recently and mixed fermentation beers, like stuff from Neville, I think that's how you say it. I don't want to say it like a Brit, like Gary Neville, Nevel in Netherlands, and who knows, maybe I'll have that beer next, but because I've got one more from them, but
Nice.
stuff like Crossover Blendery, who's the last I'm drinking this in now.
Mm-hmm.
I think they do a lot of like, extra things. I don't know if this has gone beyond what is just a saison, and that's fine. Like, this is a very easy drinking beer. This is very much a summer beer.
Yeah.
I would have had this in the garden if today was the weather was better today. It's been awful today.
Would have been perfect last week.
Or even Monday or yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not a lot going on. I guess a bit of peach flavour, a bit of probably more orange. Maybe could do with a little bit more carbonation, just to a bit more zestiness, just to ratchet things up. But I cannot complain. It's a nice beer.
Good.
All hail Canada.
Nice.
Oh, Canada.
Perfect. My beer is Albina. It's very similar in colour to yours. The head is maybe a little more frothy, but poured quite large, but dissipated really quickly. The nose is really malty, like really, really sweet. Almost kind of a little bit bready, but like like a white bread, like a sweet sort of bread. It's lovely and cool. Ooh. Does it give me any dates on it? Let me see. No, it does not give me any dates on the can. I only look because suddenly it's like, I know it said that it's got a citrusiness to it, but this has got a big citrus hit to it, like an unexpected citrus hit to it for a pale ale. It's really not easy, not sort of smooth, but just kind of, average in kind of body. It's a slight smoothness, but it's very flat. Doesn't have any carbonation sort of to it at all. And you're kind of led in by a similar kind of malty sweetness that you have on the nose, but then absolutely hit with this big old limey and sort of really orangey citrus kind of hit. It's a little bit zingy. It's got a little bit of a kind of a kick to it as well. And that leads quite nicely into a very light bitterness, which kind of goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. But then the beer dries out, and it's that citrus note that you're really left with. What did this say? Bountiful, strong but light, and finishes clean and citrusy. Yeah, I mean, it's citrus everywhere in this beer. It feels like it's, and I know nothing about Mumbles Brewery, but it feels like they're maybe a bit more of an older or more established, maybe slightly more traditional, like British brewery, brewing things like ales, and they've gone, let's do a dry hop pale, or let's lean more in, perhaps for the last few years, or I don't know, but maybe they've gone more into sort of like the craft beer styles, and you find that it's got more of their, like the body and the malt build and things of what they're used to with sort of ambers or bitters and things like that, and then they've tried to play a little bit. And this one is just like, let's just dial up the citrus notes. And that's everything you're gonna get.
Maybe they didn't quite strike the balance right. They've been around since 2011, so not ages. But
good 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like my phone. Sorry. It looks like they're more focused on like their cask and traditional styles. Like, So yeah, I mean, you go on their website and it's like, yes, bitter ale, traditional recipe. Those are the things that they're advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It tastes like that. It tastes like that's the kind of brewery that they are. And they've gone, let's try something slightly different. You know, when lots of the breweries, people like Oakham and stuff like that, when they started putting out
Yeah.
their IPAs a few years ago now. What's the citrusy one? What's the really citrusy one that they've got? I can't remember.
Is
But
it
yeah,
just called Citra?
I
Or
think it
something?
might be. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of it's that sort of style of beer, which is nice. It sits very well, but it's kind of one that is going to be gone very, very quickly because it's not giving me much. It's kind of like, yeah, this is a nice taste. It's a bit citrusy. Cool, done. Sip, 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 and it'll be away really quickly. So I shall move on and just neck it probably. Aadil.
Yeah. So on the pour, I immediately got these lovely tropical and citrus notes, which I guess, given that it's 6 hops jammed into this thing, not surprised. I'm getting a little more melon on the nose up close. So it's like tangerine, a bit of like generic melon, maybe a touch of stone fruit, but that's about it. Just an underlying sweetness, I guess, on top of all that sort of fruitiness. Ooh. It's quite light, I'm surprised, in that like it's not like a punch in the face. So it's not 6 hops shoved in.
Okay.
A lot going on though. I'm getting a little bit more dankness. Again, that melon's slightly there. Oh, yeah. And then the finish is nice and bitter. It's getting all those hops are working together to give a really luxurious finish. Bit piney, but mostly just sort of a low level bitterness. I'm actually surprised that it's not more citrusy.
Okay.
On the finish, I think that's more front loaded.
It doesn't last as long as sort of the other notes. What are you getting? More dank kind of lasting flavors.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a bit of that sweetness, a bit of that melon, and then the lingering bitterness is what is that? Oh, it's something that reminds me of, but I can't quite tell it. It's also a bit drying. In like my brain wanted to say tactile, which is decidedly not the right word.
How's the mouth feel?
As in, like the
Mouth
physical mouthfeel isn't like it's left me a bit wet, but I'm feeling a bit dried out just because that bitterness is quite strong. It's there, and it's making me be like, oh, I must be thirsty, but actually, it hasn't dried my mouth out. So if I just like sit in the discomfort, I notice, yeah, my mouth is a little dry, but not much. And I've been rambling for a minute and a half, so that's fine. So yeah, and now I'm starting to get the pininess is gone, and yeah, it's just this. It's still a finish going on. It's slightly more tropical. Again, still quite bitter forward. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there, and then perhaps at the end of the episode, say if I have any other thoughts, because there's just. I'm surprised. I was worried with 6 hops that it might be like too much going on, but actually it feels quite simple. So this feels really well made because it's 6 hops, but they're not fighting each other. In fact, I never would have guessed that 6 hops were in this, except for that sort of just the given that it's not a punch in the face. There's still quite a strong bitterness, and it's coming from sort of all those hops contributing to it, rather than like a lot of one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, when you look for a beer, and because I had this dilemma, not really a dilemma. I know what I choose, but when I was looking for beers just to buy online earlier, if you have, sometimes breweries, release 2 of the same kind of beer, but one is basically single hop. They only have 1 hop in it, or they have multiples.
Yeah.
Which do you prefer to go to? Do you think, oh, I like, say, I don't know, Centennial or Mosaic or something like that? It's like I will pick the one with the 1 hop, or will you naturally, like me, go to the one with multiple hops because I think it's more flavorful.
Um,
Or do you
uh,
want to be that beer geek as we all are and pick apart like, ooh,
yeah,
this
I
one
think
hop, see what they can do with it?
personally, I think if it's one of those, I'm gonna if you are telling me that this
Hmm.
is a Mosaic or a Simcoe beer, I would pick that because I really like seeing what people showcase around one hop. But
Hmm.
that's on with the background of I am exactly like you. I think my sweet spot is my bitter spot is 2 to 3
Yeah.
hops because like often it gets muddled, which again
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
surprised this one isn't. So that's sort of where I look for. But then if someone's saying like but this one is we've picked this specific hop and we're showcasing it, I'm much more likely to try it. I think part of it is I am a beer nerd and you know so it's like I think I know what Simcoe is. Show me what I might be missing, or make sure I am not wrong. Like there's an element of
Hmm.
well, this
Hmm.
is the only hop, so anything coming from the hops is going to come from that hop. I will learn something, but
Yeah.
also if you're flagging it as like we know we only used one, and it's not just because that's all we had going on. We were planning on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time I'm like likely to pick the single versus the mold.
How about you, Ben? Same?
I ish. I
Hmm.
think I'm maybe more brewery based on picking single hops.
Mm.
So if I've had something from a brewery, say if I've had Arbor,
Hmm.
Simcoe, tons of times, and then
Okay.
they release a Simcoe beer, but they've done something slightly different with it, and it's still a single hop beer, but they decided to brew it in a slightly different way, then I'm probably less likely to pick it up because I know what they can kind of do with Simcoe, and it will be some kind of variation on that. Whereas if someone who doesn't generally do single hop beers, if Left-Handed Giant went, yeah, here we go, we want to do a single hop series. We're going to start off with this, and then we're going to go through these kinds of things. I might then go, cool, you guys don't usually do that. I mean, Left-Handed Giant do that a little bit, but someone who doesn't do that at all. And I
Trust me,
might
yeah.
go, cool, I want to grab that beer from you to see what you can do with that hop. And I might then maybe not get all of them, but I might pick sort of the hops that I would gravitate towards, or even ones that you don't see that often.
Mm.
If someone goes, we're single hopping with Galaxy, be like, cool, okay, what is that? Let's
Yeah.
go, because
Yeah.
normally Galaxy is put with other things. So
Yeah, I think I'm
yeah.
from that school of thought, yeah.
Mm.
Mm. Depends on the hop. Like if something said just Mosaic, I'm just like, hell yeah. If it was just
Hmm.
like, oh, we're just going with Simcoe, which is not my favourite hop,
Mhm.
I'd be like, I'll go for something that we just put everything in the boil. But yeah, as I say, depends on the hop. Something, but as you say, like if it's like, ooh, what does this taste like on its own? Like Nelson Sauvin, that's probably going to taste more like a wine, maybe.
Mm.
Beer nerd kicks in, and I'm like Aadil. It's like, yes, I want to see what that's. I want to see what
Getting
it's
all
like.
those upfront grape notes, and then suddenly it
Yeah,
just
yeah,
hits you with that piney finish. You're like,
yeah.
ooh.
And I guess there's merit to it because I guess you know higher cost, less hops that are in
Sure.
circulation, and
Yep.
it's harder to get those contracts. There's merit to just brewing with one hop and seeing what you can do with it. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine it will it's not necessarily become a trend kind of at whatever point. I think, as you say, it's probably dependent very much on the market and what
mm.
people can kind of get. And if, say, a brewery has done a 4 hop or 5 hop beer, and they've brought all the same quantity of hops, or a 6 hop beer, and they've brought the same quantity of hops, but then they've decided when they're brewing that they were going to dial back on 1 or 2 of them. They then just got a load left over for whatever their next brew might be, and they might just go, cool, we've got enough to do a single hop brew of this.
Yeah.
So I think kind of they just appear suddenly.
Thanks.
So if you as I've been trying to do more recently, is getting on breweries that I like's mailing lists and things like that, so when releases are kind of coming out.
That's dangerous though.
Yeah.
I got on the crossover blendery one, and it's like, oh, I'm there every month. And I should be.
They're like, oh hey,
Hi.
look at these
and
beers coming out.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh, it's my end of month treat, buying a beer from them, along with my other treats, that I have daily.
Your daily treats, your weekly treats, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever helps you get through.
I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's 2022. Treat yourself.
Yeah. True. Cheers to that. Absolutely.
Perfect. Has anyone been treating themselves this week to gaming time? I've got nothing new to chat about because I've just been playing or bashing my head as against Tunic towards the end, as I think.
Shall we talk about that?
I mean, we can. Yeah.
I'm just no spoilers, but I'm just that game should have ended. The last quarter is just a bit of a grind, and it's like it should have ended. I'm venting my frustration because it's not my favorite game. It's a good game.
Mm-hmm.
I think the map thing is so distinctly unique. I can see why people would have this as their game of the year. Not me personally, but I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I really enjoyed the exploration. But I could sense that it's like you're gonna run out of road and you're gonna just keep going because those manual pages they suggest something is beyond that.
Yep.
And to be fair, I think there's like a really grand puzzle that you get, which may just shut me up if I ever do it. And it's like, okay, that was worth these like pains in the last quarter. If that's the case, fair enough. But the last quarter of that game is really a drag.
Yeah.
The backtracking. I don't like bus rush modes. I don't like it when the carpet is pulled from you and it's like the environment changes and it's like everything that I learnt is like kind of different now, and it's like and I can't upgrade, and it was just such a bummer, and I really didn't like it.
Yeah, I'd completely agree, and I hit that point later than you did, and you sort of made a few comments in the Discord chat to this extent, and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know what she's sort of talking about yet. Okay, I'm enjoying what I'm doing within this, say, first 2/3 to 3/4 of kind of the game, and then suddenly I hit that point. I'm like, oh, okay, I can see what they've done with the map a little bit by cutting off some routes and making you look at it slightly differently. You've got a new ability. So
that's cool. That's what I love about
absolutely.
You've got a new ability, but it's kind of in the sense where it's like, okay, you got a new ability in like a traditional Metroidvania game. Sometimes things may change, but it's like that map, and it's like I know where to go. Yeah. I know where I can go with this, and that was me going into the last part of the map. But it's like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, we've closed this bit off. Sorry.
Yeah, right. yeah, and it's so frustrating. It's everything I hate about video games, and
when you're going around collecting those manual pages towards the end, when you're getting ones which don't help with maps or allude to where you've kind of got to go in that first part of the game, it does start to suggest that there is some kind of like final puzzle as well. And then I got another page which suggested that there were some fairies. I'm like, I've got no idea what you're talking about now. Suddenly I just switched, and I'm like, nah, done. You've introduced something to me that after X amount of hours of play I've got no idea about. I don't really want to start going back around everywhere on the map looking for potentially this thing.
Because I saw that room. I found that room
behind the waterfall.
Yeah,
there's lots of waterfalls. That's not a spoiler.
I found a room behind a waterfall in my 3 hours of playing.
You probably did find it, and it's like, that's something that you have to do, but you feel like, okay, I'm still early-ish on. I'm going to pick that up gradually and naturally as I go. I may not know what it is now, but I'm going to probably encounter these things as I go. And if that's not the case, and because I started looking at the guide, it's like I know there's going to have to be a lot of backtracking. The final boss was just the classic thing where it's like, there's the second phase.
Yep.
which I don't mind usually, but I don't like the combat in this game at all. Mostly because you can't roll out of that attack, and it feels a bit sluggish. And even when I had the ability that makes you go faster, it still felt sluggish. And when I took that off, and I was like, okay, maybe we're gonna, buff my health or something. I was like, oh my god, it's so slow. I cannot go back to this. Hell no. So yeah. But yeah, sorry, Aadil, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it sounds like the problem is like kind of not that there were necessarily these moves. It's just having these extra bits in what felt like the epilogue, but like your epilogue shouldn't be longer than 3 chapters of your book, right?
Yeah.
Like
it shouldn't be so inscrutable. It shouldn't be like we're throwing away every chapter that came prior to it. That's what this feels like.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It feels like starting over.
Yeah, that's after you feel like you both like you basically you collect 3 bits of a Triforce, right?
That's where it should have ended.
Yeah, and you both have commented that that's the case, and so having big mechanical changes after the both because of the nostalgia it's leading on, but also it sounds like the gameplay have led you to feel like that was the culmination of your journey. Having to then undo things seems like a very odd choice, and honestly, I've been like playing enough of a different game, which we'll get to, that I don't think I'll go back to Tunic because of these things, even though it sounds like the manual stuff seems like my jam, and like trying to figure out what the pen markings are, etc. seems really cool, but I don't need this type of combat, and I don't need if it's gonna end not great, then like I want to get obsessed with it. It seems like it's that type of game that I'd really like to get obsessed over with the manual and stuff. But if both of you are saying, and then you will kind of hate it, like there'll be a point where you're like, I guess I should finish.
Yeah,
then I don't need that. I don't want to have a really great time for 10 hours and then start to end up lamenting.
Absolutely.
That's the thing that's so disappointing about it. And I think there's nothing wrong with, going to a different, kind of even say set of mechanics, different part of the world, different things like that. I just think it really fails on the execution of it more so than you wanting to do more. And like the manual sets you up for more, and I think that's fine, but I just think the execution of it is just, it feels like he ran out of ideas and then just added another core to the game. Maybe that was the vision all along, but the execution of it I think is poor. But and I think games should know when to end and need to self-edit, kill your darlings and all that, and a lot of things are left on the cutting floor, but sometimes you have to cut more. And I just think this is one of the classic cases where it would have ended really great, especially that last boss is, as I say,
didn't feel great.
No, because the combat just doesn't feel great, and it feels like, someone beats that. I turned on all accessibility modes for clarification because I just couldn't be asked. Because I was like, I've enjoyed this game. I'm not going to sully it even more by bashing my head against final boss. It felt like I did that in the boss rush mode when the game glitched out on me, and that was really frustrating. But even without that glitch, I would have been frustrated because it's like, come on, the combat is not the strongest part of this game. The exploration is, the manual is, and I wish you could jump from all those revelations in the manual to whatever the end puzzle grander scheme witness kind of thing is, which I still don't know about.
Well, it's this difference between going through kind of like a game which really focuses on exploration but doesn't kind of give you enough crumbs to get you to these points versus something like Death's Door, which I really enjoyed last year, which is a very, very similar game but is more linear, even though it's got a big old kind of multi-path sort of world.
A hub world, right?
It's more linear in how it pushes you through those environments. The combat is a little tighter, very similar in its combat. It's more fluid. Doesn't, and I agree with you, Lucy. The Tunic does feel a bit too sluggish. I think it's very different once you've got that extra ability towards the end. It changes that dynamic very much. In that final boss fight, I was just using that constantly, and the fight took me absolutely ages. So I'm like, pim, 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 slash, get out, pim, 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 wait to do a load of stuff, get in, slash. It took me absolutely ages because I'm just out of the way for the majority of the fight. Trying to stay away from the boss.
Are much quicker than you have a much bigger reach, and I think coming off Elden Ring really hampered my experience because that is a game with like a very dynamic, combat system, and it doesn't matter if you're short range or long range. You can work to that. Whereas this game very much wants you to do the one slash. I'm out of there. One slash. I'm out of there. And it doesn't seem like, other than like projectiles that you can throw, it gives you any other options. And even just throwing 10 bombs at something, that feels a bit unsatisfying.
Yes.
Like a lot of the bosses in that game felt unsatisfying. Like one of them just shotgun done, and the things don't. The things don't replenish if you die, and it's like you have to go and buy those things again, or like maybe grind some enemies for coins and then go buy them. Remember where you go buy them, and then go buy them. So it's like, I think this is how I want Tunic to end like Death's Door ended, because I really loved the end of Death's Door. I thought like the penultimate fight that was, fantastic. That like the art style and the music and just everything about that combat arena, which was just open.
Yeah, with the old crow.
Incredible. And that's what I wanted more from Death's Door. It's like, I wish smush these two games together. We might have a really good game.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
For me, I know it was the game of the year last year, and it's like,
but I'd agree that Death's Door would have been improved by having the slightly more open exploration mechanics and the manual idea from Tunic.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but I think I'm glad so many people gelled with this, and it seems like it might be a game of the year for a lot of people.
I think it will.
Apart a bit at the end, but that map kind of thing, which is not for everyone. Let me make that clear. As I said last week, accessibility kind of viewpoint is absolute nightmare, but I absolutely loved it, and I loved just exploring that world and finding places that was just like the amount of play testing that must have took. Where it's like, I had no idea this shortcut was here.
Completely.
I love that.
You get to a point where you're like, oh, there's a ladder here. It's been there the entire time. I could have come here so much earlier, but the game naturally progressed me round to this point to be like, here's the ladder. You're like, oh, and it's
interesting.
When I was talking about kind of looking at the detail of the manual and trying to kind of scour over it and see the different things that it might be hiding, the world does that as well. You kind of have to be looking at the detail of what's going on around you rather than just running through to get to the next point. So
that's why I think. No, go ahead, Aadil.
Just definitely how I found that random room behind the waterfall and stuff, and I think my time with Elden Ring, which I think I'll talk about in a bit. Also, like when I started Tunic after being 12 hours into Elden Ring, that's why I'm just like, and the fact that the manual and everyone's saying like, oh, it's a tricky exploration game. It's just like caused me to spend a lot of my first few hours in not really going very far, quote unquote, but really trying to get a handle of those first few areas really well, and be like, oh, but then there's this, okay, but wait, and then coming back and be like, oh wait, what about this thing?
Well, that's why I'd say play to the natural point of progression, which was get the Triforce, and then maybe look at a guide. I dropped it down to basically you don't take any hits, infinite stamina.
Yeah, those accessibility regulations are pretty decent.
Yeah, and I think that's kudos to them for putting that in the game.
Definitely.
In a game that's meant to be challenging, but Yeah, it, I mean, Tunic has so far like very much exceeded my expectations when I played the demo last year. I was just like, yeah, this is just another basic isometric indie Zelda like, and we have many of these since it was first announced. So past my expectations, and yeah,
Good.
Yeah, really good.
Nice.
Despite all my criticism,
yes,
I still really like it.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's you can really enjoy something and still be highly critical.
I'm critical of everything, so yeah.
Nice. Aadil, you intimated when I said, "Has anyone been playing anything?" that you had been playing something. Is it Elden Ring, or is there something else?
It is, but I just wanted to talk about it because it sort of leaps off of what we've been saying, especially with the combat and the flexibility.
Yeah.
Because
you're a dirty re-roller, aren't you?
Both. So the thing is, I've primarily I was like, I chose the prisoner class. It has intelligence and dexterity, and so I have been playing as this like rapier wielding caster. So pretty up close and personal with a staff in my offhand, because that's how you cast your spells. And like I have a enchantment I can put on my rapier so it does more damage, but that means that like but I also have a spell that sort of casts AoE, sort of a big blue sword swipe, so it's better for multiple mobs that are in front of me. And then the rapier is fast and smacking, and I realized that sometimes that's not enough. Well, if I'm needing to use the rapier, I got a second rapier from the plot, so now I'm dual wielding rapiers when I run out of magic. And it's when I'm on a roll, it's really good, but it's a very, very
You're like every boss in that game that just starts dual wielding you.
And I'm getting I can't hold
like people
armor.
when they like cut up kebabs on a table.
Yeah. I can't hold wear much armor because I have no points in like endurance or whatever. I am such a get beat up motherfucker. But I do have some, like if I want, I can go to the back and just spam some ranged attack spells to kill some bigger brutes in a group. Or in the boss fights, if the summons are out and I time it right, I can really make mincemeat out of things. But it's a really tough mindset playstyle to get around. And I'm really I'm like 38 levels in, and I feel like one of the problems is I've had to spread my stats out to not die, that I don't have my hits aren't very big.
So you started a new game, yeah?
So I started a new character no, I started because I haven't got to the respec part.
Yeah.
And I was basically I've had
So you've already 38 hours in.
No, that was my first character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had a rough weekend for personal reasons, and just wanted to kind of chill. And I was like, okay, I really like Elden Ring. I really like the world. This build that this insane thing I'm attempting. Why am I adding dual wielding rapiers? Is it just because I picked it up? Can I figure it out? I don't know. Let's see. But it's like wasn't what I was feeling, so it's just like, let me just try. So I rolled a character with a sword and shield, and I was like, oh, I see how like shield block and then smacking someone is such a viable way of getting through this game. Between knowing the patterns and also just the way the game works, it was a lot easier. But then I found a big two-handed sword and changed everything. And now I am basically, again, saying fuck shields. And instead I'm like, I can take hits because I can wear heavier armor, but I'm essentially yelling at things and then pancaking them with a big giant sword. And I if I connect with the bosses, and but I'm things that take even now my level 38 character a while to kill because it's finesse and I'm dodge rolling and blah blah blah. This thing and just at level 20 is just killing, and I'm like, huh, is this just the playstyle I'm good at versus the playstyle I wanted to try? And
who knows?
Yeah, but I know you can respec later in the game, but I kind of just wanted to go through the motions a bit. And the thing is, I found things in that first area that I didn't find in the first character. And I like have been trying. Like I took my time in those first couple like maps, and I'm still finding new things. And the fact that like I should probably. I mean, it would make more sense to just play a little further so I can respec on demand as some people do. But I kind of like the idea of like, hey, like this character can like really fuck up big bosses so long as I can time my dodge rolls, which I'm getting better at. But also now I'm getting like I went back to the first character this afternoon and I was like, oh, I'm doing better at my dodging, having played a different like a slow big fuck off like big hit but still dodging character. And I think it's because the playstyle allowed me to pay more attention to what the NPCs were doing versus trying to dodge and then quickly get hits in because my hits don't do a lot. But I can get 4 or 5 of them in with dual wielding rapiers, or I can get 4 or 5 of my magic swords. It's just a different play style, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm learning different ways of the combat because I've never done a Souls like, and I really like that.
Yeah, that's what I love about this game, that I can see immediately, even if I haven't played like you haven't played the previous Souls games. It's like I cannot fathom playing this game without my shield, and parrying and an absolute fat roll because I have too much armor on.
Oh, that gives me anxiety. Fat rolling gives me such anxiety.
No, I have a lot of armor. Yeah. It's not the quickest of rolls, but it's just like it's like I couldn't fathom playing any way other than that. But then I hear people like, oh yeah, like you, it's just like you've re-rolled, and people who are like, just like, what, you have a shield, and people, that's unfathomable for other people. It's just like, oh my god, this game has so much depth. It's something that I could consider like replaying in a completely different style, like with magic and a staff, even though I'm not a pussy, but like you do.
Hey,
but anyway,
try using a staff but being right beside all the guys who can fuck you up and having no armor. Don't. I'm doing it in the dumbest way possible.
You are. That's such an ideal thing to do as well. Yeah, of course you'd do that. You'd have the weakest stuff and still be like slicing underneath their belly. It's just like,
but the mage sword,
like 20 yards away. Yeah. Like, no,
mage sword does more damage than my swords do, and it's like trying to anyway.
There you go.
The thing is that like it does have that depth. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have to ask a question. Do you actually use the parry Ashes of War, or do you use the block?
I don't use any Ashes of War because you can't use it if your shield has a ability.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, because you have to parry. You actually parry, right?
I parry, and my shield has an ability where it's so good. I don't know how good it's going to be later on in the game. It's a really big ass shield, and it's like you just put it on the ground and you press L2 to block or something like that. I haven't played Elden Ring in like
L1
2 weeks or something, and it's like no matter what's hitting me, it will bash off my shield, and I will go there and stagger them. And maybe do some damage. Yeah, so it's like, okay, anything could be hitting me at that point. It's like a get out of jail free card. It's like I'll press L2, stagger them, because anything that hits you in that time will just bounce off your shield.
Nice.
And it's like,
so this is the secret to my.
And so enemies that are like already blocking, and you have to, with their own shields or whatever, you just do that, and it's like done. It'll stagger them. Yeah.
So because I was using mage weapons which don't do poise, and then rapiers which do it slowly, I just didn't know how powerful stagger and crits were.
Mm-hmm.
But my two-handed weapon, I put Ash of War, which basically it changes. I basically charge into them with my R2.
Mm-hmm.
I like run into you and then pancake you with a giant breaksword.
Nice.
And the thing is, if I hit like even tougher enemies twice, they'll just get staggered. Like I staggered at level 20, I'm staggering giants and the weird octopuses. I fucking can make mincemeat out of them. While with my stupid dual wielding mage idiot. It's like, oh, I'll get through, but I'm like working my ass off to like do all my things. And this is just like, I run full tilt at you, bash you once, and then I have enough endurance now I can bash you a second time, and then most enemies are now sitting on the floor waiting for me to crit them, and I'm like, oh, this is so much easier as a game.
Yeah, because
But I never
I
would
don't
have
know
known.
if they added this to. I don't know if those are new to the Souls games. It might be, but yeah, I always get jealous when I pick up so many Ashes of War because they're often like one of the last things in like the dungeons or the best enemy that you kill in the dungeon. I'm just like, I'm never gonna use that, but that's what I think is great about this game. It's like whatever path you stumble down initially, like whatever cave you find first, it's like that is probably going to be how you play the game. It's like you find a shield or you find a staff. It's like, okay, I'm going to either go magic or I'm either going to go heavy defensive. And it's just, as someone who doesn't like RPGs, maybe because they're just full of bloat for no reason, I love this one. It's like,
I mean,
it's a perfect RPG because it has those different paths that you can go down, and nothing is limited, and you don't feel punished because you haven't done this or you haven't done that, or okay. I mean, there are some points where it's like, okay, I need this particular type of status effect or something that heals me from this status effect, where you feel like you need to be there, but everything's optional at that point, So
I will say that because it was my secondary character / I was new and I wanted to play more melee. Like I played around a bunch with because I knew where some Ashes of War were just by memory of my first playthrough, and I just tried a bunch of things on a handful, basically a colossal greatsword, and then a sword and a shield and a pike, and I was like, colossal greatswords are dumb. They're so lumbering. This is great. And then because I was trying different things, and I ended up finding out that this one Ash of War changes the move set. So basically, my trigger literally goes death from above and smacks them, and it does a ton of stagger. And if I don't have my yell, it doesn't do that. So I'm like, that's the only use I use FP for, is just so that on harder enemies I can stagger them. And right now I don't need to do that. I can still, I'm still pretty. I'm not used to not being as agile, because once you're in the middle of a giant, it's a colossal great sword animation, right? So you're like, whoa, and if you miss, rats and dogs are the worst because I can swing above them, and so getting used to crouching and doing a quick thing, which makes you poke forward.
Did I mention that it took me forever to realize there was attack on R1 as well as R2?
Oh,
you did not? No.
It took me probably about 15 hours.
So a little bit quicker than knowing you can run.
Yeah. That was about 70.
R1 is so on my pokey rapier build. R1 is my main attack because it's quick.
Yeah.
And then it's just like a thrust to try and get past shields for R2. But I think that's probably why I didn't realize, because the R1s don't do a lot of poise. So I think that's why I didn't realize how much staggering changes the game.
You weren't combining sort of both attacks enough to get that,
but when you have two of the same weapon, L1 turns into hit with both.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm dual wielding rapiers. So it's like, I don't need to cast
poking somebody, like you poke fixing a corn on the cob.
But
it goes into the oven. That's what he's doing.
I'm not doing tons of damage, but if I can basically some enemies I can just and then R1 a couple times, L1 a bunch, and they'll probably get fucked up, right? It just won't be quick.
They'll bleed to death. Yeah. You poke so many holes.
Oh dear, nice. I'm sure we'll return to some Elden Ring. Aadil, was there a final thought with?
No, I just wanted to say that this is why I was saying, I don't think I want to play this style of sort of roll and stab game with Tunic, except for the like grander thing. And if you're saying I can't even do the grander thing without some slog at the end, I think I'll like not go back to it for a while because
Yeah.
I'm getting so much out of the combat and the exploration and just the scale and like the scale of the game of Elden Ring has just really got me. Like I wouldn't be surprised if so I want to get to the point where I can respec so I can tell if it makes sense to have multiple characters. But like I really want to try the like Lucy style of heavier armor, sword and shield, but I just until this dumb charge and stagger, because the thing with the charge is that it runs into the person, so it does poise before you even hit them.
Right.
So I'm just like, if I can time things right, melting through a lot of enemies, and it feels really good, and it feels dumb, and it's very different from my other playstyle. But I'm still not using shield, block, return, or parrying, which was the whole point of rolling a new character, was learn this mechanic that most people think is how the game should get played. But I'm gonna wait until I get a little further to be like, how hard is it to respec? Does it make sense? Does it really matter if it's a new character or not?
Because yeah, I was wondering why you re-rolled, sorry, and it's just like that's just the deal. You like poking at things, and it's like I can see why you did because this is the most pokeable game.
Yeah.
It's like yeah. So I'm interested to see how your adventures go, but
nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely enraptured by Elden Ring too, but it's like I knew that it's like, it comes to that point where it's like, yes, this is so big, it's overwhelming. I'm gonna take a step back and play other things because it's like this is my favorite game in so many ways, and it's like is one of the best games ever made. It's like I'll come back to it.
Yeah,
But it's not like if I put down Tunic, I'm never come back to it because it annoyed me.
Yeah.
This is like I'm gonna come back to this eventually. So
I've also learned the like I've always been a bit impatient about being bad at learning bosses or certain types of games, and I find myself being a little finally finding the balance between being obstinate but like not enjoying myself. Now, like getting it when like the first time you hit a boss and you get it to a third, and then every other time you're not getting to a half, and be like, I need a break. Learning that pattern mentally, but also realizing that like I want to do that, and it's the first time I think I've started to get that, and then but now what's weird is I've now been like, so what would happen? So with the like second character, I'm literally like, I don't want to use summons because I want to see if I can.
I'm there ringing that bell, baby.
Well,
a lot of the time.
So I think
ding, ding,
it
ding,
is
ding.
just like trying because why I rolled that character was trying to learn a different way of doing combat, and like I think the problem is then I should be a shieldy person because when all the aggro's on me, I'm probably going to get hit because I'm not that quick of a gamer.
Yeah, sometimes it's like I'll try it without summons a few times, but it's like when I know this person has my number because they're just much faster than me, it just seems like utter bullshit because games have a lot of bullshit.
I mean, so
it's like I'll bring out my shielded men to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh, I just have imps that throw shit at people.
It's no good.
You need the shielded man.
The thing is, like, there's places called summoning circles, basically, and I find that I like bashed my head against one of those fights for a bit with my primary character because I was getting through, but I couldn't, and it really those you can't summon spirits in, and like the whole point of that build was like on boss fights, I'm going to let my summons tank for a bit and come behind and use my like mage sword a bunch, maybe get a couple pokes in with my enhanced rapier, roll away, and like then maybe cast a thing at range, but probably not. Probably just try and let the aggro get maintained between things, and then I can kill most things I've entered, so long as I don't get too greedy. But like that's why I played the second character to be like, oh, so how do I do this without summons? Because because those fights you can't do, and it's so hard for my level 36 character, and my level 20 character like is doing a lot better, but that's because the playstyle is more one-on-one, and it's like if I can get the hits are so big that actually I just need to time 6 hits versus 15 hits or whatever, right?
Yes.
Anyway, you'll come to end of the year with having the most rounded experience of Elden Ring. He would have re-rolled every single character. Prisoner, whatever else is, knight.
Well, let's come back. We won't quite have an Elden Ring segment every
we'll
week,
stop
I
boring
imagine.
you about
But
Elden
Yeah,
Ring.
sorry. I
Till
just I
next
wanted
week,
to talk
then.
about it because of the Tunic stuff, and then I got carried away.
No,
absolutely. I want to hear.
Don't mind
about it.
him.
That's the thing.
Don't mind Ben. I want to hear all about it.
Well, we've come to the end of episode 315, so let's jump into our beers and what they were like. Lucy, I know you've still probably got a chunk of yours left, being in a bigger vessel. But how are you finding it?
Yeah, probably about 250 ml, I guess. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I must say that I've been holding onto this for a few months, and maybe it's not the freshest that it could be, but it's still a really good saison. It's like I can't accentuate how easy it is. Even with a bit of carbonation, the sourness in it, it's just so easy to drink. Even if you're a newcomer to saisons, it's got a nice bit of fruit to it as well, and it's really good. It's really good. I think I'm a bit more high on it, just how long it's lasted me. Obviously, it's a 750ml bottle, but it's just I've never felt compelled to like drink more to get more flavor or anything like that. Or it's just lasted, and I think this is perfect summer beer.
Nice.
Yeah. So and it made its way to over from Canada, so that's another factor, and it's still really good. So,
Good, perfect. I might not be so positive about the Albina from Mumbles Brewery. It was fine. The beer is fine. That's about it. It kind of, that citrusy note that was the kind of real hit at the start did fade as I got further through the beer. It faded quite quickly, actually. It was almost a bit of a whimper about halfway through. So I acclimatized to it really, really quickly. And that just left a little hint of citrus and a little sweet malty note on it. And that was kind of it for, half of the beer. So I'd be interested to see maybe what Mumbles can do with more traditional styles. And if that's what they're kind of brewing a lot of. And getting some beer on cask or something from them to see what they can do there. And Aadil, the 71 Brewing. Did you get all of the 6 hops?
I mean, I did get them because I drank the whole thing. So all I would add is I think that there was a bit more tropical than I think I said in the initial description, and one of the lingering flavors was something like tinned lychee. Okay. So not quite fresh, a little syrupy. So making a lychee type flavor with just a bit more sugar, not too much, but a bit more sugar. Was just hanging out, and I think that's why the bitterness felt so smooth, because it had this extra note, this light sweet fruit on top. So although I was getting a lot of bitter flavor from the finish, it was just being a bit tempered. It was really, really good. Again, I think most of the fact that the 6 hops were, there's bits and pieces of the hops in the ways that I kind of know them, having had single hop exposition beers before of those. But I think it was remarkable how consistent and interesting it was, and also light. Like, it wasn't in your face, but there was all these things going on just lightly and well melded, so you could easily just sip it and be like, yes, this is. Also, it's a 7.5% IPA, which I kept forgetting, because boy, does it not feel like that. Maybe that's why the lychee felt a little more syrupy now that I think about it. But very, very good beer. Definitely would say track it down. I guess it's technically so it's a DIPA. It's great. Really tasty. And like, if you aren't a beer snob but just want to have a nice, tasty, slightly sort of like an IPA that just is easy on the tongue and the palate, this works great. It's
perfect. Good. So if you, listener, want to let us know what you've been drinking, you can go to @TankTopCast on the socials, or you can come over to outoflives.net and comment on the podcast articles. We are all over there. We'll all see it and chat. You can also come to our Out of Lives Discord as well to chat beer or video games with us. It always helps if you want to go on your podcast service of choice and rate and review us as well. Or leave us a comment on the YouTube page. That's Out of Lives Network as well. Yes, here. Also on Twitch. Come and join us on a Wednesday evening and watch us live. Look at the beers that we're drinking and watch 2 episodes as we're rolling straight into episode 316 right now. But for those listening and those over on the YouTube, you'll get that in a few days' time. Thank you, though, for joining us for this episode. We will see you very, very soon. We've been tagged up. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Hump day today, but it's hump day for you every day. If you want it to be.
Nice. That's true.
www.outoflives.net